Now, we talked about the last point, which is they are new investors who bid off more than they can chew. We went over free and clear properties. They own a second house. This factor has non-paid tenants. I'm going to give you some strategies where you find this, and this, I would have to say, is one of my biggest ways to get structured finance deals. Non-paid tenants is in place. Needs repairs or rehab. Expired listings is a huge source for us. Most of the time, if properties become expired, it's because that owner who tried to sell that property, it does not have the curb appeal or the actual appeal interior-wise that meets the standard of a home buyer. And the majority of the time, these properties become expired listings. And these are great opportunities to convert the expired listing to a structure or owner finance deal where you're talking about lease with option to buy, you're talking about tenant placement, you're talking about guaranteed rent or master leasing.
Charles, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you get this expired listing?
We're going to go into that as well. The difference between borrowing cash to buy a property and negotiating owner financing. When you borrow cash, the lender wants you, we're talking about banks, traditional banks. The lender wants you to have to agree to a rigid schedule that's unrelated to the income of the property. So you have to go to the 30-year mortgage, amortize, and so on when you're dealing with a traditional lender. When you're dealing with owner finance or structured finance, you create the terms. You create the payments and so on. They want to charge you for the privilege of using their money when you're going with a bank or traditional lender. When you're doing owner finance, you charge them if you so choose to or not. They have you pay money back regardless of the future value of the property. If a property goes down in value, do you still have to pay the money that's owed on the mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
And owner finance and structured finance deals, that's not the case. They want to check your credit history. I have yet to have a seller who I've done structured financing with and owner financing ask to see my credit. They want to verify your income. I'm going to repeat the same statement again. I have yet to have asked to verify my income. The banks want the property to be appraised. They want the property to be inspected by an inspector. Next, the last main issue is banks want you to have you sign a reams of paper that will last 5 years and kill 100 trees in order to close on the property. Where most of my owner finance deals consist of 3 pieces of paper unless I'm doing a promissory note or if I'm doing an actual mortgage. That's it. Key points to getting your offer accepted. 1, the keys to accepting a structured financing offer are simplicity and brevity. Keep this in mind. The more simplistic you make the process, the more smoother and the more likelihood you will get a yes in the process. Most of the time, if you get, and I will think it over, or I will need to check this with my attorney or my CPA, is because he did not, or that seller that you try to do a structured deal with or own a finance deal with, did not understand what you were saying to them. You totally confused them. And now they feel as though they need an expert to make this decision. Contracts, closings, collection payments, and notes all sound simple to you, but to that seller, it's reason to get an attorney. It's reason to get a CPA involved. I don't do contracts with my sellers. I do paperwork. A contract is so legally binding. Paperwork is so warm and fuzzy. What about closings? I don't go to closing. I take the deal home. Let's go to the table. Think in terms of, you don't have to prove to that seller that you're the smartest person in the room. You want to be on that same level of that seller. A lot of times when I negotiate, I use a strategy that's in neuro-linguistic programming, where it's called mimicking your product. And when my seller speaks in a high-pitched voice, I speak in a high-pitched voice. When my seller speaks softly, I speak softly. When my seller crosses his arm, I cross my arm. When my seller sits down, I sit down. Why? People like them. So by you mirroring their actions, their idiosyncrasies, and their tone, psychologically, in their mind, you're someone they're going to easily feel as though they can relate to.
Thank you.
Your job is to present an offer that solves the big problem. That's your number one job as an investor. Not to get the property wholesale or rehab, but to give an offer that will solve the big problem. A seller may have multiple problems, but there's one main reason that keeps that person up at night. And you have to identify it through your negotiations, through your questioning, and find out what is that one main reason that keeps them up at night. How to present your offer. Most of the time I do what's called a Ben Frederick close, where I have a yellow page and a T-bar. And on that yellow page and T-bar, I have two offers. One is all cash, and one is structured financing or owner financing. If I want that owner to go owner financing, I will give him more money on the owner finance side of the bar and ask for a bigger discount on the all cash side of the bar. If I want him to give me an offer based on all cash, I'm going to offer less on the owner finance side of the bar and offer more on the all cash side of the bar. But I'm going to spell it out right in front of him exactly what I can do with his property. Now, I use what's called a two-step negotiation strategy. And this is it. The first step involves getting the information that I need in order to make a sound offer on the phone. The second step is closing that sound offer in his presence with my two-step close. So I don't go to a property unless I'm close to the number I need to be at on the phone. I see and hear that so many of you are going to look at properties 5, 10, 15, 20 a week, and you don't even know if the seller is even close to accepting your offer. And the first thing you're going to yell 3 months from now is, real estate investing don't work because I didn't get not one deal and I went and saw 25 properties last month. Don't go out to these properties unless you know the numbers are close to where you can make a deal. Two-step negotiation strategy. If the seller says, my property is worth $150,000, I only need $10,000 worth of repairs. Properties in the area sell for $350,000. On the phone, that's a great deal. I do my due diligence. I go to the seller house. Mr. Seller, I'm sorry, the properties in your area is only selling for $300,000, not $350,000. Your repairs is not $10,000, but $40,000. Based on these numbers, the number I gave you as a maybe won't work now. What would you like to do? Here's what I can offer you. So I get a close to where I need to be at or where I need to be at on the phone, and then I renegotiate it when I get to the property once I check the repairs, once I check all the details of the house, once I do my due diligence. You do it that way, you will close 2, 3, 4 times the amount of deals you're closing now, and you'll be less frustrated. Don't go out unless that seller is close to where you need to be at to make it a good deal for you. Next, I take the property and actually bring it down by way of here's how I plan on doing your deal. I'm going to either do a subject to, agreed by making payments, or I'm going to do some type of structured financing. And here's what I'm going to do on this side. I'm going to also write down the amount that I'm willing to pay to the seller at closing. I'm going to also put on the pad the amount I will pay to the seller each month if I'm doing structured financing. I'm going to also put on there exactly how long this loan is going to be. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I'm going to also have on here the date that I will close. I'm going to also have, I will take the house in as-is condition. So I'm putting all of that on here, and most of you will call this a letter of intent. But I'm going to have all of that on here until I get a yes. And then I'm putting it on paper, on the paperwork. And I'm offering my offer to the seller based on all cash or structured financing, but only if it's a part of the deal where it could be an all cash or structured finance deal. Any questions regarding this?
Don't be scared.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you bring the paperwork with you?
Yes,
to this particular
absolutely.
meeting? You don't give them time, obviously.
Absolutely. Do I bring the paperwork with me? Absolutely. I'm ready to get that paperwork signed right then and there. One of your biggest tools you're going to have is what's called a contingency. The deal we talked about was the guy that was in Edgewood. The 2 contingencies I put in the contract, even though he couldn't sell it right now because he still lived in his house, because he also had a renter in one of the properties, one of the contingencies I put in there is subject to the actual tenant being evicted out of the property at the time of closing. The second contingency was subject to the seller moving out and finding a suitable residence in the next 30 to 45 days. Those are contingencies that I put in the contract, but I wanted that property under contract now. You want to get a list of the personal properties, such as appliances and so on. When you structure a deal, where does appliances go to? Are they going back with the seller? Or are you going to get this opportunity to use them in your boarding house? Agree to sign a formal contract within 24 hours. I never give my seller time to take my contract and wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days to get back with my contract. This offer is good for 24 hours. I have a lot of money going out, and I can't tie it up wondering if you're willing to move forward or not. I always leave the seller with an offer, even if the offer is the offer they don't want. And this is another key fact. Leave every seller you talk to with an offer. If you do that, each year you'll find sellers that will come back to you because they overemphasize what they thought the value of their property was worth, and they realize that you're their only hope now. So always leave a seller with an offer, even if it's an offer you know that's not going to be accepted, because their circumstance could change. That will make your offer looks like Christmas. My contract I used to buy. Key points. The first line, and I've used this contract for about 15 years. Several hundreds of properties with this contract. And why do I like this contract? Because this contract, I can do owner finance deals, I can do subject to deals, I can do lease option deals, I can do straight purchases, and I can do assignment deals on the same 3-page contract. Earnest money deposit, balance due at closing, not included buyer closing costs, proceeds of a new loan to be executed by the buyer to any lender other than the seller. Seller financing, structured financing subject to and so on. Subject to existing loan balance. Subject to existing second. So with all those points in this contract, I'm able to do any type of structured owner finance deal I want to do on this one contract. This contract is on the website, Real Deal Meetup, underneath of Real Dealer documents. My $1 million questionnaires. This is where your money is made. This is where, before you get to that contract, you make your money. Because this paperwork right here will tell you how to buy any deal that comes on your desk. With these questions. Let me go over these questions and the psychology behind these questions. Sound like you have a nice property. Why are you selling? I'm going into the motivation, into the mind. I need to find out, this house is so pretty, this house is gorgeous, rehab, totally good, great condition. Why are you selling? Well, because I can't afford the current payment that's going on right now. You want to always drill down to the 100-foot view. I can't afford the current payment that I'm paying right now. Two things come to mind. Well, what is your current payment? And, well, how much do you need to be able to afford it? What's the uncomfortable situation that I can help the person out of? How much do properties in your areas like this sell for? I want to get a sense whether or not the owner knows the value of the neighborhood. And not only that, but I'm going to also use this in my second stage negotiation when the owner says properties in my area sell for $150,000, but I pulled all the comps up and they only sell for $100. So when I go to the house, I'm going to say, well, you know that house next door where you thought sold for $150? It actually sold for $100. And the one across the street actually sold for $90. So the dollar amount we talked about is not really going to make this deal work, and here's why. A seller will work with you when you have facts behind your answers, facts behind your information, facts behind your data. Does your property need any repairs? No, it doesn't need any repairs at all. This property is in move-in condition. I get this a lot from real estate investors. Well, move-in condition could be a painted floor on all the rooms, a kitchen that hasn't been updated in 5 years, I think at 15 years, wood windows, radiate systems. That's move-in condition. Well, you say the house will need repairs. My goal with this property is to buy, fix up, and sell. So, Mr. Jackson, in order for me to do this deal, I cannot base this house on not needing repairs. I have to replace the kitchen. I have to replace the windows. I have to replace the electric. Here's what it's going to cost me. If you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to buy your house. So I'm using their information against them once I get to the property. But they got to give me a number close to where I need to be at before I go to the property. How long have you owned the property? Oh, well, I've owned the property for 27 years. Whoop, ding, 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 ding. Bing, bong, bing, bong. Inside out, sister. Private joke, I'm sorry. 27 years. This property is almost free and clear. This property has a lot of equity. How long have you owned the property? 2 years? Ooh, 2 years. This could be a structured finance deal. This could be a deal I'll take over the payments. This could be a deal I'll do tenant placement with. This could be a deal I'll do a lease with option with. What makes it a deal to do a lease with option with? If the mortgage payment is substantially lower enough for me to rent it out. For example, person wants $1,100 for the mortgage, but the area is rent for $1,900. So if they have a property that has no equity and it rents for $1,900, but they only owe $1,100, first thought on my mind is take over these payments. Because I can make at least $400 to $500 positive cash flow after expenses. So you look at the numbers that's being presented to you, and this sheet will tell you how to buy that house. Is the mortgage current? Well, kind of. It was current a year ago, but the bank hasn't foreclosed on it yet. Goes to motivation, goes to way I can structure the deal. Mortgage, 1 year old, not current. Could be a situation for a short sale. Definitely a motivated person, property could be going into foreclosure soon. Could be a situation for a renegotiating of mortgage or a forbearance agreement. Let me tell you the deal one of my mastermind students, Danny Law, did. And I wish he was here. The person owned, and I can't even remember the full details, so the numbers I'm throwing out is going to be close enough, but it won't be the exact number. It was a deal where the person owed $175. They were, I think, 6 or 7 months behind on the mortgage payment. So we negotiated for the person to do a forbearance agreement with the bank. The bank actually knocked off $75,000 from the current mortgage balance. The bank did say that you will receive a deficiency judgment, but then we also found a program that will pay almost 80% of the deficiency judgment. So he got the property that had a $150,000, $175,000 mortgage. He knocked off half of that mortgage balance. He knocked off that the owner having to have a full deficiency judgment. He's going to make the payments on that because it's only 10 to 20% that has to be paid. And now he has a property that was originally worth $175,000, still worth $175,000, but he's only in half the amount. 50% loan to value. Because he asked the guy to go through the forbearance agreement and restructure the mortgage. And he did it, and the bank said yes. So we created a structured refinance deal on that. And he's got the property right now, ready to go. He's not here, his name is Danny Law. Okay. How many months behind are you? In Maryland, there's a law, Protection of Homeowner Foreclosure Act. That law states that if the property is over 60 days late, you as an investor cannot buy that property from that homeowner if they live in it. If you do, you could be in a police lineup wearing black and white stripes. Because in Maryland, you cannot buy properties that's in foreclosure if the person's still living in the property. And the property is over 60 days late on the mortgage. Or should I say the owner is over 60 days late on the mortgage. So that's why it comes into play. How many months behind are you on your mortgage? You better be asking every seller in Maryland you're doing business with. If they say 3 months, do you still live in the property? Yes. Oh, goodbye. I'm sorry, I gotta go. If they say no, they don't live in the property, let's talk. Because the law only applies to owner occupants, not non-owner occupants. So I don't necessarily say I can't talk. What I do tell the seller is that at this point, I'm not able to buy your property from you. I advise you to get in contact with a real estate agent or attorney of your choice. And then at that point in time, you can contact me and I'll be happy to buy your property. That's what I would say if it was an owner occupant over 60 days late. But the stuff we're doing in Washington, the stuff we're doing in Ohio, the stuff we're doing in Florida, we buy 30, 60, 90-day note, 30, 60, 90-day mortgage, and we market to those people all day long because the law isn't in effect there. But it is in effect here in Maryland. How much do you owe on the mortgage? And a lot of investors find it hard to get that answer. how much do you owe on the mortgage? They even find it hard to get the mortgage current sometimes. But how much do you owe on the mortgage is extremely important because it will tell me if I can take over the mortgage payment. I'm sorry, it will tell me if there's equity in the mortgage or not. Because I know they owned the property for 2 years and they bought it at $180,000. So 2 years after ownership, there's no equity. 5 years after ownership, there's very little equity. 7 years after ownership, there's still a tiny little bit of equity. 15, 20, 25 years of the ownership. That's what you want when you're talking about equity built in. The exception to that rule is the amount of down payment that the seller put on the property. If you put a large down payment on the property, then there may be equity in a property that's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years old. Or, which is not the case in most instances, there's been acceleration of appreciation. Now you're talking about where there could be equity in the property. Like we had in 2006, 2007, 2005, where you bought a property in June and the appraised value went up $50,000 by April, July, August. But that's not the case right now. Get your hand up.
So why not do, if the numbers work in the deal, why not do cash for keys with someone in foreclosure that's occupying and help relocate them?
Well, you can't do cash for keys because the law states that if the person is over 60 days late in foreclosure, they have to be represented by an agent or a licensed attorney. And then you can do cash for keys if they come to you afterwards.
Okay, so even if you help them relocate and they're no longer occupying?
You can't do that.
Okay,
That's a sure way to go to jail.
okay.
Now, this is the question that gives new investors nightmares. You don't know how often I'm told, oh, Charles, the seller don't want to give me the mortgage payment. I asked, I don't know how many times, and they asked me like, well, why do you need to know that for? What you trying to do? You don't know my mortgage payment for? The answer I give that seller, oh, let's see. Tanya, you're the seller. Tanya wants to know, why do I want to know her mortgage payment? Tanya, you called me up because you want to sell your property, right?
Yes.
And in order to sell your property, you're trying to get the highest and best price, right?
Yes, I am.
Well, the reason why I need to know that information is I'm going to give you the highest dollar amount I possibly can. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, I would.
And that's how I usually do that. You notice how I kept on shaking my head? She wouldn't budge, but I want to try to get her to agree with what I'm saying. So I always do an affirmation of my movements when I ask a question, when I'm talking to the seller in person. Because if I could have got her to even move her head forward like I'm moving mine when I ask the question, I'm almost assured to get that answer. But when I ask it in that way, where it's a benefit for them, where it's a win for them, very rarely do I not get an answer to how much is your mortgage payments. And I will easily say to anyone, if you can't get that question answered, it's you, not the seller.
Now, you know, from a personal standpoint, because it's me,
Exactly.
trying to talk on the phone to a seller, and it has tended to be difficult for me, because I've had sellers tell me, that's none of your business. One woman told me, it's none of your business. And so, right now, I got a couple, but I did find on the last person that I dealt with, my conversation was more on a personal level, and she was a motivated seller, because she was a landlord, and she was tired of being a landlord, and it was just costing her more than what she was bringing in. So she was willing to give up the information.
One of the key points you want to keep in mind, when you're a new investor, you don't know what you don't know, but fluidity will win over the conversation every time. And I know I'm not saying that you're doing this at all, but when you get comfortable asking it, where you, instead of, oh shucks, here comes that question. Oh my goodness. How much you owe on your mortgage? When it becomes part of the conversation. Give an example. The seller starts talking about, I cannot take this issue I'm having with my son. Every time I get this money into him every month, my mortgage is always late. I cannot make this payment. It's ridiculous. The next question out of my mouth, for real? Are you serious? How much is the mortgage payment? I'm putting it in the flow of the conversation. When you texture it in the flow of the conversation, there is no no's. Because it's a conversation with a familiar friend. Be that familiar friend in that conversation. Key question, how much do you need to sell for? Not how much you want to sell. How much do you need to sell for? I want the need. I want the uncomfortable circumstance. How much do you need to sell for? I take it one step further. I will always go to that person and I say, Mark, if I had to ask you to give me a dollar amount that would help you sleep good at night and say that, man, that guy Charles gave me the best offer I could have had for, what would that dollar amount be?
$30,000.
That's how I phrase the question. How much do you need to sell for? Mark, $30,000? I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. If you had to sharpen that pencil and write down my absolute bottom offer, what would that number be?
22.
So I just got from the 30 to the 22 just by if you had to sharpen your pencil. You can get that person down to their bottom number, but you want to do it in sequence. Not starting off with, what's your bottom number? No, don't start off with their bottom number. Start off with the number that will help them sleep or make them feel comfortable doing business with you. And then ask them to sharpen the pencil and give you their absolute rock bottom number.
That's good. That's worth coming in today for.
I know that. Next. Paula,
Yeah.
how do you come up with that number? Well, Paula just said her rock bottom number is $31,000. Or let's say $31,000. Well, the reason I came up with that number is because I know for a fact in the next 2 months I got to pay $10,000 for this actual loan for my daughter's college. And then I have to worry about basically how much I'm going to pay. I would like to go on a trip by 3 months from now, and that's going to cost me at least $5,000. And of course, the rest of the money I'm going to put in the bank. So Paula just told me that I could give her $15,000 down and do owner structured financing for the other $15,000 over a long-term period or a term period of time. Because I said, how did you come up with that number? I want to get down to what that number means to them in the context of uncomfortable situation. What does that number mean to in the context of what you plan on doing with your money when you get it? And last but not least is a push, or what I could call a pain push.
Charles, I got a question.
Mhm.
So you can structure an owner finance type of deal. However, they have tenants in the house that they have an emotional connection with. What's next?
Oh, that was a double-edged sword. You could structure a deal where they have tenants in the house that they have an emotional connection with.
And
The key,
then-
okay, then the key is to structure the deal based on the emotional connection. Well, Mr. Johnson, I know you're worried about the tenants that's there. Would it help for you if I give them an extra 30 days or 45 days in the property after closing to sell the property? So that way I give them enough time to find another property? So I would structure the deal based on that emotional connection if it's going to get me over the finish line.
Charles, so backing up a little bit about the 60 days with the banks, with foreclosure. So what I've done is not necessarily discuss numbers when a seller is behind, but I tell them, here's my card, please have the bank contact me. And often the bank is willing to negotiate, and then they'll get a realtor to list the property, and then we can make a deal.
I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I would do almost the same thing, but it would be, well, there's a couple things you can do. You need to contact your attorney, you need to contact the bank, you need to contact with this person, and then you can get in a call. So it's almost the same thing,
Right.
but it may be said a different way.
Right, because I'm just concerned that sometimes mentioning an attorney will cause them to
Mhm.
back up.
Exactly.
But since they already have a relationship with the bank,
Mhm.
generally I go that venue.
Okay, great point. If you're unable to sell the property, what would you do? You want the pain points, guys. Man, I don't know what I'm going to do because I got to be out of this property in the next 3 months. I'm going to lose this job I have lined up. The seller just told you they need to sell their house in the next 3 months. All you got to do is convince them to sell it to you based on your offer. Man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I may wind up losing this property if I can't find a buyer in 30 days. You just found out this guy is highly motivated, extremely motivated. They need to get out of the property in 30 days. They need to get under the water that they're in from drowning in 30 days. They're begging you, and giving you every reason why you need to buy their house within the next 30 days. You just have to structure it. Last but not least, I put on here if the property is in bankruptcy foreclosure, and that's mainly for references for my VAs when they pass it over to my project manager. Any question regarding the actual questions to ask to analyze any deal? Because with these answers, guys and gals, there's no deal that I can't figure out where does it fit. Rehab, wholesale, owner finance, subject to tenant placement. As long as I have all the numbers that count, I can structure any deal.
So after you ask all these questions or have that conversation with the seller, you would provide them with an offer before you even hang up?
Great question. After I get all the information, do I provide them with an offer before I hang up? The answer is, most of the time, if the numbers make sense based on the information I was given, yes. The exception to that rule is if I'm a new investor and I need to do my due diligence and I have to find out what the cost of value and so on is on the appraised and rehab, on the actual appraisal of the property and so on. I'm going to tell the person, I'll be contacting you back in the next hour or so with my information in regards to your property. So, most of the time it's a yes, unless there's some skepticism, and I'm going to give them an hour window that I'm going to do the research and contact them with my information, with the details. Now, there is an exception. If you don't get the information, and you need to do your due diligence. In Maryland, I can go to a website called MD Land Records and find out the actual mortgage information as well as the mortgage payments on most deeds, on most properties. So if the person doesn't want to give you that information, in Maryland, you can go online and research it. So if you didn't get it on the phone, then your fallback is going to be, I just need to do a little bit of research right now and I'll call you back in the next hour. Once you do your homework and find out what this information is, so you can structure the deal properly. So when you don't get the information you need, you definitely have to give them that hour or two window to do the due diligence. But when you get the information you need, 9 times out of 10, I'm giving them an offer right on the phone. And then I'm backing that offer up once I go to visit their property. Now, key point is not on here. When I'm talking to a seller and I'm ready to go to a house, I don't ask the seller, when can I come by? I tell the seller, what time will work for you today between 3 and 6? What time will work for you tomorrow between 9 and 5? Not, when can I come by to take a look at the property? You want to be in control of the process, not a victim of the process. Not to mention, if she or he is talking to you on the phone, there's an excellent chance, and I do mean this, there's a damn good chance they've contacted another investor. And you're now on the clock. Like the NBA draft. Because it's just a matter of time before somebody else is going to prance up in that property and tell that person everything and anything they can to make them not want to do business with you. 5 marketing campaigns designed for owner finance deals. Pretty in pinks. I love this strategy. Going to the courthouse, pulling eviction notices, and using slide dial to contact the individuals that I pull from the courthouse in order to ask them to see if they're interested in buying their property. Slide dial is a service that will allow you to contact a person by sending a message straight to the person's voicemail. So when you have a telephone number, you can put this in slide dial and slide broadcast and send that person who's filing eviction on that tenant a phone call, a phone blast that says this: hey, I saw your property at the courthouse. If you're willing to be flexible on price or terms, give me a call. I'll be interested in buying it. It's called slide broadcast if you're going to do more than one. Slide dial if you plan on doing one at a time. Slide broadcast will let you do 100, 500, 250 broadcast messages to all your telephone numbers. The same message that will go straight to their voicemail.
Can you spell that? I don't really understand what
Slide dial is SLYDIAL.
Oh, okay.
This slide broadcast.
Pinks, failure to pay rent. You got owners, new owners, who is just sick and tired, and now they're evicting somebody. We talked about motivated situations. Eviction is one of them. It's one of the key ones. So now you got this landlord, they're in the process of evicting this person. They filed failure to pay rent. They will be welcoming your call, especially if they're a new investor and they've just been doing this business for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, or the old investors who are just sick and tired of filing for eviction. Next, Craigslist for rent and for sale. The key to Craigslist for rent and for sale is longevity of the post. People that have had the properties on Craigslist for weeks and months and were unable to rent or sell their property. They are ideal for structured finance deals. Ideal for tenant placement. Ideal for lease with option to buy. Ideal for owner finance. And once again, whenever I have a telephone number, I'm going to use slide dial because I can get a telephone number on these posts. Now, why would I want to do slide dial on Craigslist especially? Why? Because one of the biggest scams out there is people sending people emails on Craigslist trying to want to buy their house and want to rent their house and so on. When I send that person a voice message to their phone, I just erase any skepticism of a scammer. Because they got an actual voice message from a person who said, hey, I saw your ad on Craigslist. If you can be flexible on price and terms, give me a call. I'd be interested in buying. Notice the familiarity of the last ad? Key points to that ad. Hey, I saw your ad on Craigslist. If you can be flexible on price and or terms, give me a call. I would be interested in buying your property. I want people that are interested in what I just said. They know what I just said. If you can be flexible on price and or terms, give me a call. I would be interested in buying your property. You will get calls from people who know to expect some type of flexible pricing offer or some type of term offer, which will make your negotiation for a structure or owner finance deal a whole lot easier. Absentee owners, 3 to 4 levels deep. I talked about this on the direct mail marketing video I did when I did the direct mail marketing workshop. I'm going after absentee owners that own a property in a particular zip code, that have equity in their property, or that is already equity out, meaning there's no equity in the property, and I'm going to direct mail target marketing to them. I'm going after owner-occupied properties, 3 to 4 levels deep, in a particular zip code that has equity or is over-equitized, and also have a situation where they have a high mortgage balance, or should I say they have a high delinquency with credit issues. And driving for dollars. Driving for dollars could be one of the #1 ways you find structured finance deals. Because most of the time, those deals we find are properties that are vacant or properties where the seller can't do the work that needs to be done and it looks like a mess from the outside. Those 5 strategies are fantastic ways to find all structured financing and owner finance deals. But we're not done. I want you to think like a mad scientist. Think like what? Everybody is sending out yellow letters, Charles. Everybody is sending out for absentee owners. Everybody is doing the Craigslist. Everybody is driving for dollars and sending out a letter. This is the mind of a mad scientist, guys. Let me show you something. 3D mailing. What is 3D mailing? It's mailing campaigns that we're doing that make what we do stand out from everybody else. If you stand out of a crowd, you will get noticed. You will get calls. Corey, come here. Cliff, come here also. And I want you to go with Corey, take the box with you guys and just hand them out. And then we're going to go over to how you can just basically make sure. Corey, you know the details, so that you can tell Cliff what you have to do.
Okay, so everyone doesn't get it to like one
One per table. Is there something in that? Is this in that?
No.
You want me to keep do the leg work, the heavy work. Look at that. Come around this way.
Those are actual mail pieces. You got people in front now. Don't leave these people in front. Those are the actual mail pieces that we use in direct mail marketing.
Everybody gets a piece of everything.
No. And make sure you guys pass that around to each person on the table.
Gotta move, man.
Anybody want to give him a hand? Give him a hand. There you go. There you go. Thank you.
You need instruction.
You know, guys are a little slow. These are actual marketing pieces that we use, 3D mailers that we use. Some, not all of my direct mail letters that I use. Open up the fortune cookies. Look inside the fortune cookies. I even have a personal message in the fortune cookie.
Are they edible?
Yep. They're real fortune cookies. Let the other person in your row know what they said. That's not the one that's going out. That was just one to show you guys.
No, I mean it's Chinese or it's Western stuff. Oh wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Only the last scientist come up with this. Only the last scientist.
Why not mess with this out, like, you know, one number or something? Just simple.
Does every table have one? Every table has?
What they do?
I'm going to hold details of these.
That's actually going in the bag.
If your table doesn't have 4 items, can you raise your hand, please? Everybody has it?
1, 2, 3. Oh, we got it.
This is supposed to have a fortune cookie or something.
Oh, okay.
What does it have?
Wait a minute. Okay.
So what's,
These are actually direct mail campaigns we're doing in the states that we're working them in.
I guess you gotta read it.
I just put these together just to show you guys what you can do in this business and how you stand out of the crowd and get to the value. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And get to the point where you're crushing it. In the last 3 months alone, we've done 7 deals. The 7 deals that we did all included a step or a 3-step 3D campaign that you have right in front of you. Now that's just on the 3D campaigns. Let me go further. This campaign is a mailbag. What we do, if we send this out to either absentee and or high owner occupied with equity, and it says inside of it, you know what the letter says?
Me too. I like that one too.
You open up McDonald's too, Charles, you need us back?
Yeah, I don't have it on this one. But it says something about I save you the trouble for throwing this in the trash. I'm sorry. It says about you're going to need this to carry your money in the bank after we sell you after you sell me your property. All you have to do is put first class postage on this. This is considered small postage handling. The cost on this is $1.89. That's what the postage costs. The actual mail pieces, it's called 3D mailings. For the whole system, what you have right here, that's not even half of it. You get a total of 157 pieces, meaning 48 trash cans, 48 bottles. You see how the bottles are set up, where you screw the bottom off and you get the letter. 48 trash cans, 48 bottles.
You can mail it just like this.
Yep, with postage standpoint. And 48 trash cans, bottles, and these actual bank bags, $138. That's all it cost me. $138. 3dmail.com. 3dmail.com. $138. 48 bank bags, 48 bottles, 48 trash cans. That's called a 3-ply order. You can mix and match 3 different orders for a low price.
How do you mail out the fortune cookies without them getting crushed?
They go inside my yellow letters. Now, some may get crushed, some don't. But there's no way of getting around it. But the whole point of, I get calls like, man, you are sick. I get calls like, a fortune. I mean, you would not believe some of the calls we get regarding this market. The key is, the person who sees this is going to think about you first when they think about selling their property, if they're not ready to sell right now. Some of the time, these are second and third mailings. They're not the first. The postcards you guys got. This is right now one of the highest converting things we're doing right now is these postcards with the same verbiage you see on them. Handwritten fonts. And we're actually printing them out on an inkjet printer. My VA is doing it.
Charles, I have a question.
Yes.
On this letter and on the postcard, it says Sally Smith and then it has her address. Is that her actual house address? Or, okay, like for Mark and I, when we've sent out our yellow letters, I hesitate to put
Right.
our house because it's our physical house.
Yeah, Sally Smith's address is actually a post office box at 101, I think 101, 111. 141 Lombard Street.
Okay. So it's just
UPS. Great question. UPS allows you to call a post office box a suite. So you could rent a post office box at UPS and give it the address of a suite. And now have mail comes to your house.
Charles,
Yes.
is this a local VA that does this for you, or, how can they ship this off to
This is a local VA, one of my interns. But all my people that work in other countries, other cities, they're actually doing it as well. Yep. And if I send the actual order straight to their house.
So Charles, this would be a good way for people who are new to JV with people who have time, like summers off, who don't have.
There you go. There you go. Now, let me show you
I'm
something.
gonna put that out there.
It gets even madder. Let me tell you how we do this. There's two ways in which you can do this, guys. One of which is, and this is the way that I taught my VA to do it. You take your white paper, press it up against the yellow notepad, and print it on your printer, and it shows what you got right there is a copy. The yellow letters you got, all that was done this way. And the key to it is this. This is the key. It's in the Bible. The key to it is the white letter doesn't have the details on it. You can write that in after the fact, and the whole letter looks like it's handwritten. So you could write a template letter that just has N, and put the person's name by manual, put the person's address by manual, put the telephone number you want by manual, and just print these out all day long and just have your VA just write in this. And it looked like the whole letter was written by hand. So we use the printer to copy the master template, and the VA just write in the name and the address and the phone number.
So,
That's
let me
it.
ask a question. Using the yellow letter generator,
Yeah.
so,
There's three ways of thinking I like to think. People who have money, people who don't have money, people who have a little bit of money. If you want to have somebody to do it, you can have something like Yellow Letter Generator to do it, or yellowletter.com to do it for you. If you don't have money, this is a great way to do it. If you have a medium budget, you can go to a company here in Maryland called Apple Press, and they will print out your yellow letters already on notepads, where you just rip each yellow letter off one at a time. At a cost of $2,500 for $349. And it will all come on a yellow sheet like this already, with the ink and everything filled out, handwritten.
Charlie, I might be a little slow, just a little. But can you explain the very first thing you said about putting the white sheet on top of the yellow?
Sure.
One more time?
The key to this process is to make sure that when your finished product is done, that when you copy it on your printer, it falls in the line of your yellow paper.
Okay.
So the way you do that is you put the white sheet of paper, your template, on top so that the lines show through. And you write on it with the lines showing through, staying in the lines.
Oh, okay.
And you loaded your printer with that paper
With
and
the
it went through.
Right, with the white template
Correct.
and the yellow paper on the bottom. So the copy from the white template will fall perfectly in line with the yellow paper.
And Charles, they have to make sure it's at least, I think, 20 pounds or so, or the jam your printer.
Now, not true.
The line paper in the printer?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, here's where I'm going with this. The key is the type of ink that you use. You must use an inkjet printer, and you must use a gel type pen. That is what gives you that authentic handwritten look. An inkjet printer and a gel type pen.
Charles, is this all printed for them?
Yes.
So this is, I wrote mine on white lined paper first, and then I went out and I bought yellow paper, and then I copied it. And this is, and I left out the deer, and then I left a couple lines. So it's-
Now, key point, the cookies, the fortune cookies. Fortune cookies, you can have any custom message you want on your fortune cookies for a cost of 100 fortune cookies for $23. 100 fortune cookies for $23. You guys got the messages already. You look at my fortune cookies, you'll see the messages on them. It says, Chucky buy yucky houses, call 7 days or less. And it also says, one of them is for divorce. The one that says, did he say yes? Now he, what is it, what does it say?
He said I do, now he don't.
Yeah.
So you're on wild property.
Right. He said I do, now he don't. That's what divorce mail is. I told you, Chucky's crazy. Chucky's crazy. Now, here's my last and main point. The key to your yellow letters is handwritten fonts, making it look real. This website, yourfonts.com, will allow you to take your own handwriting and make it into a font. So you can take your own handwriting and make it into a font, and then type their handwriting on your yellow letters, on your postcards, and have the handwritten look. And it's free. At yourfonts.com. Yourfonts.com. The process is very simple. They give you a template to use where you have to write in the letter A, the letter B, in your own handwriting style, the letter C, and so on. Then you upload it back into their system, and they change it into a TIFF file that will be used in Microsoft Word as your own handwriting. I told you I'm mad. This business isn't hard. We make it hard based on sometimes what we don't know. Because a lot of times we are quick to say something don't work because we never did it. We are quick to say that don't work because we never heard of it before. Think outside of the box, and your real estate business will go to unbelievable heights.